Hello everyone, this is Bob Treemore. Where did the smart handle go for the rower? Where did it go? Lots of rumors were floating about that the smart handle for the rower would have buttons on them, and what we're seeing now absolutely is there are no buttons on the rower whatsoever. Now there's some evidence that points toward there was consideration of a rower with buttons, and we're going to pursue that evidence, and then we're going to kind of go where I think this handle may have actually ended up in kind of the timeline and logistical nightmare that Peloton's going on about this rower, getting this rower out to market. But first, what I noticed as I was queuing up this video, I went to the Peloton home screen. What are we not seeing here? It is September 8th. The announcement on social media came out on September 6th, so just a little more than 48 hours ago, that you can sign up for the Peloton Row. Just a few hours ago, we had in this carousel, I think I can manually go through these. We had, hey, we got the Row. Come sign up. It's not here anymore. It's not. Why 48 hours after a lot of ballyhoo about the rower, and it's already off the front page after 48 hours. Now the sign-up sheet's still there. I can still get to it. Sign-up sheet's here. But anyone visiting onepeloton.com is not going to be able to navigate directly here. You've got to look through historical Peloton social postings to find a hot link to get you here. It's off the front page. And I have lots of ideas about lots of things about Peloton. I'll be honest with you, I don't have an idea of why it's off the front page. In what, less than 48 hours? 48 hours? I don't know. Anyway, let's get to the smart handle. This is equally fascinating to me. But here we obviously have Adrian in the initial promo video, who's basically an identical physical physique to mine, and he's doing the rower, and we kind of see some snippets of the handle. This is what we were looking at early on, and we were thinking possibly that there were some buttons here. And then here's a later image that we have, close-up of what we see the handle, and all reports from beta testers, unofficial reports from beta testers, is that the handle has no buttons. It is simply a triangular shaped cylinder that you row with. It is a dumb handle, for the lack of a better term. But there were rumors, some had some degree of credibility, that buttons were being considered by Peloton. Where did this go? Because I will proffer to you today that this rower was meant to be the RowPlus. It has the big monitor, the 22-inch big monitor that the Bike Plus has, that the Tread Plus did have. It doesn't have the more diminutive screen of the Bike or the Tread. I think this was meant to be the RowPlus, and they did that with the Tread. They introduced the Tread Plus. It was called the Tread at the time, but they introduced the Tread Plus and later came out with the Tread and did a bunch of renaming, and we ended up with Tread and Tread Plus. But Tread Plus came out first. So there's no reason that RowPlus wouldn't necessarily come out first. And it's a higher price point, right? And it's the only one on the market. So let's charge more with the only product we have, and then later on down the road, much like Hydro did, we'll come out with a smaller model and just name it the Row. But what are you going to do if you're Peloton with a rower? You've got the big screen on there. Are you going to make this the Row minus, the smaller Row? I don't think you are. I think eventually, if this is successful, may or may not be, this may be the only iteration. But what I'm saying is that I believe this was intentioned to be the RowPlus with a smart handle, and the smart handle just didn't get done. And so I'm going to tell you where I think the smart handles ended up or will end up. But let's dive back into the smart handle itself. Now, a while ago, I put up this posting on Twitter. I found a patent in China, had to translate it, only in China. This is a testing fixture maker by the name of Bo-Kun, subsidiary of a larger Chinese company. And what they make is testing rigs for companies. One of their customers happened to be Pegatron. Pegatron is making the Peloton rower. Pegatron does a lot of things. So Bo-Kun is a testing manufacturer, not just for rowing handles, but for certainly a number of things. And Pegatron would be a natural customer for them. So a lot of what we're saying here is we're indulging in a little bit of speculation. But I firmly believe the row, what I'm just going to call the Handle Plus, the Handle Plus or the advanced handle, was a real thing, is a real thing, and it simply did not make it into this iteration. Why I think that is, and I'm not going to pull up, let's watch some more Adrian. I'm not going to pull up the patent because it's a nightmare of translation. But the fixture manufacturer, so now we're twice removed. We've got Peloton, we've got Pegatron, and now we have a potential supplier of Pegatron, Bo-Kun, who's creating a test fixture to test these handles. Where we end up here is, this is from the patent images, but what I was going to say is the patent text talks about how hard it is to test buttons on a three-dimensional, geometrically complex shape. So we're seeing these buttons here. These are on a cylinder. They're not all on the same plane. You've got some buttons that are kind of like, let's say, 0 degrees. You've got some that are 10 degrees. You've got some that are at 15 degrees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not easy to simply get a machine to go, yes, that button works. Move over 3 inches. Yes, that button works. Move over 2 inches. Yes, that button works. You've got to rotate your device around the circumference of the handle. And like I said, this handle has all X, Y, and Z axes involved in it. A lot of ergonomic work went into this. I think, even though we are now twice removed from Peloton, I think this Chinese patent is actually the RowPlus handle. I've looked at all the other main manufacturers. I've looked at Ergata. I've looked at Averon. I've looked at Nordic Track. All of them just have essentially a straight cylinder pipe as a handle. The only one that even comes close is Hydro. And that is simply, we're getting a little bit, still essentially a straight cylinder with a bulge to connect to the resistance strap. It's not triangular. When we look at this image, the open triangle, the XYZ dimensions, we're getting there. And what I have an item here. Let me pull this up. I've taken the image out of the patent, and I know I'm doing a little crazy. I'm getting a little wacky out here, and you could bear with me, but let's just line these up and let's see how close they come. I've done nothing with this patent image, which is the one that's kind of blinking here. I've done nothing with this except rotate it. I've not done any Photoshop. I've not tried to make it match more closely or less closely. Unfortunately, the way Adrian's holding the handle and the way the patent images have this handle drawn are not remotely the same angle. So I've done no photoshopping other than simply rotating it and then sizing it so it's essentially appropriate to what Adrian's holding in his hands. So without photoshopping, without going into crazy permutations of making it fit, to me, this is the Peloton handle with buttons. I think Bo-Kun, this test fixture manufacturer, inadvertently, they said no one's going to find this weird patent we're going to file in China that's twice removed from Peloton. I think this is it. So let's look at this a little bit closer. Again, now at this point we're under the presumption. I said a lot of this is speculation, but we're simply, for the purpose of this video, we're under the assumption this is, or very likely is, the Peloton handle, and we'll go into some additional reasons why I think it is, other than simply it looks like it. But what do we have if we make the assumption that this is the Peloton handle, or at least some handle? We've got a D-pad right here. So it's got 4 buttons, up, down, left, right, and a select, right? We've got some type of up-down indicator here and some type of up-down indicator here. The D-pad, I would say, is simply for navigation of the Peloton menu screen, selecting a class. If you're on the leaderboard, if you arrow over to the leaderboard and you go down or up a couple times or what have you, you can select someone and hit the select button and do a high five, perhaps. Now, the 2 up-down buttons are a little bit trickier. One, I would assume, would be volume. I would say it's probably this one by itself would be volume. This one, because you've got a D-pad, that's good for click, click, go, click, click, go. But if you're going up and down the leaderboard, do you want a faster way to do that? Or conversely, I know rowers, I'm not a pro at rowers. I know a lot of rowers don't have a resistance function on them, and I'm not making any speculation. All I'm speculating is what this other up-down is. Could it be a resistance? I don't think it is. I think rowers generally really don't delve into resistance. I'm going to leave that to someone else. I'm not a rower expert. But I would say we probably have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons here, 2 buttons here, and another 2 buttons here. So going back to this Bo Kuhn, who's developing, this is the picture of the apparatus that will be testing this handle. Obviously, a lot of effort went into simply creating this test machine. And what this test machine is, because of the massively complex geometry of this handle, it is going to have this mechanism that apparently can pivot, or several mechanisms that can pivot or be on different axes, to hit these buttons on a cylindrical XYZ handle that kind of veers in, veers out, veers down, up, and determine whether or not. The patent itself mentions pressure tests. I think just basically a threshold of when a click is registered as to when a click is not registered, and or if a click is registered. And then the other interesting item was in this now I'm not even, look at this. I'm not even showing you the right picture. Now I'm showing you the right picture. The apparatus has an atomizer that can spray water as it's doing these clicks. So again, the patent actually talks about sweat. So I think this is replicating sweat and or moisture in the buttons, and will there obviously be any electrical issues of sorts. So we've got 5, 7, we got roughly 9 buttons that we can see from the patent. We've got a test apparatus that can test up, down on all the buttons, on all the axes, and we've got an atomizer that can do sweat. This is not a cheap machine. The patent, the Bo Kuhn itself goes into this. It's kind of weird because they do a little commentary in the patent, and I'm going to summarize again from the translation. They're saying, this is basically, I'm now pretending I'm Bo Kuhn in the patent. This is a crazy handle. This handle is like no other handle we've ever seen before. This thing's got X's and Y's and Z's. It's going up and down, in and out. It's got buttons going around a tube. It is crazy hard to test this reliably. We've looked at other machines, and or we, it was unclear whether we or they, meaning Peloton or Pegatron, looked at other machines, and no other machines out on the market could test this crazy handle. just off-the-shelf testing fixtures. That probably a lot of do buttons work fixtures out there, and none of those worked. So we as Bokun, we created this thing, and we had our design team design it up. We had our patent team lawyers send it into the Chinese patent system, and they approved it. This is a very expensive piece of machinery for it is not able to be used anywhere else. This is it. This machine will live or die on the smart handle. Now the question is this being produced? How many are produced? How many does Pegatron need? Are they going to simply sample the design samples and see if the buttons work? I think a human probably could do that. Or are they going to test every single handle coming off an assembly line? Or are they meant to kind of a combination where let's get some prototypes in it, let's see if those prototypes work, then when we go to the assembly line and start making these things, then we're kind of run a sample. Every 100 handles, we're going to throw one in this crazy machine and see if the buttons work. Because you're not going to buy 20, 30, 40 of these machines. I can't see it. These things have to be exorbitantly expensive. But someone went to a lot of effort to get this done, mate. And again, I looked at the major manufacturers, Ergata, Averon, Hydro, Ergata, Nordic Track, Bowflex. None of them have a handle even close to the Peloton handle that we've seen. This one matches up pretty darn well. So that leads us to why is this handle? If there's a patent, if there's a fixture machine, if Pegatron's making these things, we know beta testers have rowers. Why are we stuck with a dumb handle on something that probably is a RowPlus with a big 22-inch screen? Why do people not have row scan? I think the reason is the yield. The successful production yield on the smart handle was not high. They're very complicated to make, and they're very complicated to make right. With a sweat proof and these wraparound buttons. And that's why eventually they had to go out to Peloton called Pegatron and said, the yield you guys are giving us on these handles is not great. 1 out of every 6 actually works. And Pegatron called Bokun, can you help us out? Well, during all that back and forth, the calendar is still clicking. 22 is still rolling along. And Barry said, was it Barry or one of the C-suiters said, we're still on target for a 2022 release. And at the end of the day, they were like, we can't do it. This handle's killing us. This handle is killing us. And we're not going to make a row minus just to put a dumb handle on it. We're going to have to go out with a RowPlus. We're going to have to put the big screen on it. It's going to have all the crazy functionalities we want it to, but we're just going to have a stripped down handle and get it out there. Because man, this it's too bad. Because this is a pretty handle with a lot of really attractive functionality. So that kind of leads us to, yeah, it matches up. Kind of leaves us to where does this thing go? And I think I think if I put myself in Peloton shoes, they've produced the RowPlus. They have not been able to successfully produce the RowPlus handle, the Handle Plus. I don't think anyone thinks with Peloton's track record of moving things back and forth and back and forth. They have that track record, and it's not a good one. I mean, it is a good one in that they do it often, but it's often met with less than positive results in any number of areas. Specifically, price is certainly the most part. So they're not going to sell a year's worth of these Row 2s with smart handles. or dumb handles. They're not going to sell a year's worth. Let's say these things actually make it out and they start getting delivered in December. They're not going to turn around the following July 2023 and say, just kidding, we're now making this row or the RowPlus, what's it called, the Peloton Row. We're now delivering this with the plus handle. People are going to go irate, right? They're going to go bananas. Existing owners are going to go bananas. Unacceptable. The back and forth has to stop. Peloton has to understand this. The back and forth has to stop. So where does that realize? They're not going to make a bike minus or a row minus with a smart handle, because what sense does that makes no sense. That doesn't make any sense. So where does it end up? I think where we're ultimately going to end up is this smart handle, the Handle Plus. I think it's brilliant. They just weren't able to get it out the door. The yields weren't there. They're not going to put it on a row minus. I think maybe years and years and years down the road, if the rower is successful, they may just say, okay, we're going to ship the row now. Once the initial wave of orders is contentment has been achieved and people are happy and they're out of their warranty period and whatnot, maybe they'll add it to the RowPlus. But what I think the row handle will actually end up, come on, Peloton screen, don't go crazy on me, is here. I think this area, which has been devoid of meaningful products since day one, might actually get its first interesting product. If you buy Tonal, a lot of the smart handles and smart equipment that come along with a Tonal, if you buy the base model, which is kind of just the unit hanging on the wall, in their accessories area, all the smart stuff is in accessories where they can charge some pretty big bucks for. And actually, it's interesting stuff. If we go in here, what interesting things do we have currently? You know, we've got some dumbbells. I could buy those at Walmart. I got some shoes. I can certainly buy those someplace. I've got a heart rate monitor. I actually use a Scosh. Love it. Peloton wants to send me this fancy one. I will certainly use it. We've got some mats. We've got some bands. There is nothing in accessories that's exciting. And I'm not knocking these accessories. They're fine. I'm sure Peloton sells some of this stuff. But I think this is where the Handle Plus finally lands. I think this row that we saw in the pictures gets shipped as is with a dumb handle. And the Handle Plus lands top spot right here. Dumbbells, sorry, you get kicked out. Shoes, you get to the second row. Because the Handle Plus for $299.99 plus tax and delivery is going to be the top item here to advance your rower to the next level. Take your rowing to places you've never gone before. The power of rowing in your hands. Whatever, I'm not making crazy things up. But I think this is because, I don't think this was the vision, but I think this is what happens. I think eventually they will, because of all the expenses they put in and thought they've put into this thing, it has to go somewhere. And they'd be crazy to ship rows with dumb handles and then 6-12 months later say, yeah, just kidding, we're shipping them with smart handles. No, I think the smart handle is going to be produced because I think it's brilliant. I think it's fantastic. And I think the one that we were just kind of looking at is the Pelotons. I believe it. I could be wrong. I have speculation. I think it ends up right here in accessories. That'd be exciting. Accessories need something exciting because it's dumbbells and shoes and towels. So it'd be nice to see something else here. So anyway, that's our excursion into the land of speculation today on the row handle. Appreciate y'all tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time. And where did the row sign-up sheet go?